Alright guys, what's up? So got my algorithm that I did here today. I didn't get the best result on it. I think what I did is I kind of broke it down into two main steps, and I think I could have did both of those steps at the same time, like in one iteration. I don't think I actually needed to do two separate iterations, but this is how this was my very first approach. So like obviously I recognize that like I think I could improve the code. I was just trying to get, the right answer to appear on the screen. That was my main objective. I might go back and try and optimize it. I think what it is I can get this into here. I don't think that I don't think I need both. Anyway, so what this one was is they give us an array of strings and we want to find the anagrams. And we're going to pair the words in a new string, or we're going to pair the words in a new list. Let me rephrase this. It's going to be a list containing lists of strings. And then each of the nested lists, they're gonna group the strings by if they're anagrams or not. So, for example, in this one, we would end up having a net our nested. We would have three nested arrays in our. Well, actually, they're lists. Sorry, we would have three nested lists in our main list. All right. So first off, we need to like figure out what's gonna happen if there's some base cases. Because if it's zero, we don't need to do all this stuff. We know that it's gonna be an empty array. So we have if strings length is 0, let's go ahead and create our list of list strings, and it's going to be a new array list. We're going to put one blank nested array inside of it because there has to be something, right? Anyways, I got the answer right when I did it this way, so if they wanted you to send an array with nothing in it, then two empty lists. I just figured, it has to be a list. It's looking to receive a list of lists containing strings, but if it's only a list, I don't know. Maybe I should tinker with that and see if I could like not actually add this and it'd still work. Anyways, I digress. Then we have our else if the length of the strings is 1, so if there's only one word inside our strings, then we're going to create the base case list, which is our super list. And then we're going to have our nested list. We're going to add string. There's only one word in there, so we're going to add that string to the nested list, add the nested list to the main list, and then we're going to return that. So now what happens if we actually end up having some anagrams in here? So the approach that I took, like I said, not the most efficient, and that's okay. Because, I'm still learning. This one I actually got on my first attempt. I didn't even need to tweak any of my logic. It just worked pretty smooth. So I'm not going to lie, I had to think about it kind of hard and I worked slow. So that kind of, hindered my productivity, if you will. But I'm trying to become a stronger Java programmer. Obviously, I could be doing all these algorithms in like JavaScript or Python, and it would probably be a lot more straightforward because like there's less data types. I only have to worry about like what arrays, JavaScript objects. I mean, that's such a stupid name. Why do they name them objects? They should have named them maps or dictionaries. I don't really understand that very much, but I'm just a lowly pleb developer, so whatever. I'm an amateur developer. There we go. Because I'm not hired yet. That's what I'm gonna call myself for now. An amateur developer, amateur programmer. So yeah, I'm trying to improve my Java skills. I want to be. I don't want to write JavaScript all my life. I want to work. I prefer back end work a little bit more than front end work. I do like front end work as well, though. I think it's very fun. I have a creative side and kind of appeals to that. But I think of Java as a much more sturdy backend language than Node.js, even though it's just as good. And I actually heard that V8 runtimes are like getting really good because there's like just tons and tons of people working on JavaScript, which is cool. Um, anyways, so our next step here is we're gonna make our return list, and we're gonna make a dictionary. Now, see, I think the better way of doing this. I'm gonna say it before I give my approach. I think while if I the way I did it is I made a list. I made a list inside the, I guess it's a string. I organized it as a string and a string. But realistically it's a list. It's like comma separated values. So later I can parse it out so I can just get the integer while not making it convoluted with like non I know strings aren't really like a primitive data type. I don't think. But I think just characters, right? Only characters are primitives. I'm gonna have to look this up. But anyways, it's not really the point. It's a lot easier for me to work with strings than it is to work with lists in Java. So could I have made the list? Yeah, in fact, it probably would have run better because then I don't have to parse it later. I could just add it to the list um, as a I could just add it. I could add it to the hash map as the value that I need, so I don't need to parse it later. It removes a step. It'd probably be quicker. This is just the way it worked in my head, and it's probably fine this way. Because then it just makes it easier for me because I don't have to worry about accessing the list and then the thing. It's just getting more and more nested. This was just a simpler approach for me in my head. This is how I thought it out. Whatever. Anyways, what I'm really trying to say is I think that if this if else right here is probably unnecessary. If it already exists in the dictionary, then I should probably just add it to the list right then and there. The only problem with that in my head is I was having problems figuring out how I would put the list, how I would know which list stands for which acronym. But actually, if I would have just made it so it's a list of integers in the hash map, then I could have just appended that. Yeah, I definitely could do this better. Oh yeah, I think I figured out a way better way of doing this. I'm gonna stop fixating on that so much. I stepped away from this for a couple hours and played like some video games. My dog's sick, so I had to clean up after it a little bit, and I took her outside. But this was my approach. So we're gonna sort each word's characters alphabetically. To sort, we're gonna split it into an array of characters, array.sort, split string. Now they're in alphabetical order. Then if anagram map does not contain the key arrays to string split string, we're going to have to anagram. We're gonna go ahead and create a new key value pair. Otherwise, we're gonna update the key value pair that already exists. So then we created our with that for loop we have created our map, and inside the map we have the sorted word, and we have the indexes for that anagram that correspond with that sorted word. Because if it's an anagram, if the words are sorted, it'll be in the same order. So that creates our map. Next, we are going to iterate through the keys and create a list of words that correspond with the indices in the map. And then we're going to add the list to the return value. So set of strings is going to be our keys, and that's anagram.map key set. And I know that there's multiple ways to iterate through a set. This one seemed the most straightforward for me. I think this is like the most old school Java way of doing it, and there's been a lot of like upgrades since Java 8 for this, but this was the approach that seemed the most straightforward to me. This is the one that I could wrap my head around the most. Probably because it's just more verbose, but whatever. Because sets aren't ordered, so there's no like real indice for them. So while keys iterator has next, we're gonna call that key iterator next is just gonna be assigned to next, because every time you do .next, it's gonna call up the next position, and I don't know what you call it. The next value inside the set is going to get pulled when you do that .next method. So you only want to do that once per loop, and you need to assign that to a value. So if we pull it and there's only one value, we don't need to do all this extra stuff. We just need to put the one word by itself inside the greater array. So integer value to add is integer parse int, indices to add I. And then, oh wait, this is if it's greater than 1. We'll do if it's not greater than 1 first. So it's because that's a little bit more straightforward. We get the value we want to add, and we parse it from the anagram map.get of the value of next. It's going to give us the list of strings, nested list, or we're creating the nested list, sorry. Create that. And then we're going to add the word from the original string, or the original array that was given to us from that index. We're going to add it to our nested list. We're going to add the nested list to the return list. And then if it's the end of the loop, we're going to blast it home with the return list. But now, if inside the map there is the comma separated value string, we're going to have to do a double for loop. This is something I was trying to avoid at all costs, because I know this is terrible. I could not think of how to do it. Because, I mean, you're iterating a list inside of a list, so don't you have... I know it's probably some way you don't have to, but, you know, a nested list probably maybe had to do it. At least in the approach that I took. Because I'm telling you, I know that there's a better way to do it, where I kind of divulged it into 2 for loops. I think you can mash it all in one. So if anagram.get next's length is more than 1, we're going to do indices to add, which is going to be anagram.get next, which is going to give us the value of that set next. The value of the key inset in the set, which is next. We're going to split it with a comma. So every comma, it's going to split it. And then we're going to make a nested list. It's going to be empty. And then we're going to do a for loop from indices to add, which is going to be all of our little values. We're going to parse it to an integer, and then we're going to add it. We're going to add. So this is creating the integer that we're going to use inside to access that index within the original array. So then we're going to add from the original array the integer that we just parsed out. We're going to add it to nested list. Once we get through that for loop, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add, or we're going to add the nested list to return list. Once we get all the way through, we're going to return list. Simple as. We'll run it real quick. Tan nat that et8. And there you go. Simple as that. Simple as that. I think I'm probably not gonna do any more today. I might read some of my textbook. Maybe I might just like play around on like some program, like make some apps, work on some apps that I just think is fun. Not really like the most educational, but at the same time, any practice is good practice. All right, well, I guess I'll catch you all later.